We welcome Drake Tolan from Locked On Big 12. A phenomenal job, as always, covering the conference, and a real strong dose of breaking news reporting on this morning's edition of Locked On 12. Can you catch us up to speed on Cookiegate, the Cookie Monster becoming involved to make sure the Kalani Sitake stays in Provo? Let me ask you that first. Like, what have you known or what have you gleaned new this morning? Anything new?
They call me the Marty Smith of the Big 12, and they've called me that for a long time. And I think that we have culminated that with the Kalani Sitake coaching carousel news that broke yesterday. And look, Gary Danielson's great, obviously a legend of the game. But I haven't seen him wear a fur coat on the air, so I'm just spitballing here, letting you know that I'm excited to be here always on your show, and that I'm excited to admit that Kalani Sitake was staying at Penn State, and then he left Penn State for BYU, and then he was going back to Penn State, and then he was going back to BYU. This saga is one that should not be swept under the rug when it comes to the great 6 hours of a coaching search that needs its own E60. Liam Blutman was the first one on this, and this is a producer from Barstool. And typically, if there are people in the media industry that we don't see as, reputable sources for breaking information, it's like Pablo Torres 1-1 way up there. And the Barstool producer, you're like, okay, but this dude, I'm talking, he is the connection. Like, he might as well be the AD at Penn State. And he is saying that at this moment, it would be a miracle if Kalani Sitake does not go to Penn State. So, of course, I get on the phone. I start working the phones here. And every person I talk to is like, dog, this is it. Like, this is the one. There are enough friction points at BYU right now for Sitake, from staff pay to NIL to even somewhat his own salary, just a fair salary for himself when he's watching Lane Kiffin, who has less wins the last 2 years, yet, $13 million per year at LSU, saying, I want a cut of that, or at least something similar. And so I'm being told that BYU couldn't match the offer in full, but they didn't need to. It's the dream school for Kalani, and this was not just a leverage game for him. He legitimately wants his staff to succeed, his players to succeed. Knowing how it is in college football, I think if Sitake took the job at Penn State, BYU would have lost double-digit guys to Happy Valley. And not because he would try to poach them, but more so Penn State saying, hey, we can give you more NIL, and Sitake saying, make a business decision. This is a life decision for these kids. Instead, middle of the night, we go from barring a miracle to the powers that be in the conglomerate of BYU fandom and alumni who own businesses and are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and have decided that Kalani Sitake is a figure they cannot go without. They all gather in a room where it happens, and when they come out, he's the head coach again. They have scheduled a meeting to meet with the team where there's the Dana Altman, Arkansas situation. I don't know if you remember that one where he goes to the podium and it's legendary. He gives the entire opening press conference and then leaves the next day for Oregon after accepting the job. This one's different. He sets up a meeting with the team. Think about it. You're Kalani Sitake. You're his wife. You're his kids. You're writing out in your head what you're going to say to Chase Roberts and Will Ferrin and Isaiah Glasker and LJ Martin, thinking, man, how do I, 9 years here, I really want to encapsulate it. I don't want these kids who are going into the Big 12 championship.
Before the biggest game in the program's in 40-some years.
Absolutely.
Holiday Bowl in 84.
And the meeting's on the books. Like, the meeting's set. It's in the team group me. Everyone be here at this time. And what I love about this is Jason McGowan, the CEO of Crumble Cookies. He tweets out, this is just the most Batman. If nobody else is going to do it, I guess it's me. He tweets out, some people are not replaceable. Sounds like it's time for me to get off the sidelines and get to work. And within 30 minutes, and maybe it's just dumb luck and great timing of that tweet within 30 minutes. Hey guys, just kidding. No team meeting. Enjoy your afternoon. Go get some Chipotle. I mean, this is as crazy as it gets, given that the Kiffin situation was weeks on end of reporting back and forth. This was 7 quality hours of no one really knowing what was going to happen. And then I've had multiple people call me this morning and say that as of noon Eastern time, Tuesday, December 2nd, that coming down the pipeline here soon will be the official extension for Kalani, that actually, because he signed one last year.
Yeah.
He already signed one. He inked one. And then I think this coaching carousel taught the top coaches in the country, Eli Drinkowitz to Clark Lee to now Kalani Sitake, hey, if your school values you, there's a number on that for NIL. There's a number on that for staff. And if they don't, there's a number somebody else is going to give you. So the way that this carousel went, Kalani saw that and said, hey, Jay Hill's got to get paid. A-Rod's got to get paid. Fezzi's got to get paid. And now those guys are about to get paid.
So is there any, I don't want to use disdain, but maybe resentment from Kalani towards the university or whoever the powers that be that, hey, because you're showing a ton of, I know there's more guys and more coaches, but man, the cash flow towards the basketball program has been out of sight, right? Like, is he saying, I would like to tap into some of that myself so I can continue for this program to not only sustain, but to get better so we don't have to be in a situation where if we don't win the Big 12 championship at 11-1, we still may not get in, or 11-2, whatever.
So this is the classic story, and I have a respect and appreciation for both Kalani Sitake and Brian Santiago, but this is a classic story of new AD steps in, and there are going to be growing pains. I mentioned the phrase friction points, and that's what it feels like here with Kalani and Santiago, where they're trying to figure out. Brian came in, and really the first thing he did while Tom Holmoe was still kind of there was bring Kevin Young, the NBA's top assistant, a future NBA head coach, and now one of the most prolific college basketball coaches as far as developing players for the pros. He brings him in and gives him the Brink truck. The Rob Wright situation over the course of the summer. You talk about how much money is being pumped through the basketball program and the donors that are in the basketball program. Kalani's simply saying, and he didn't say it to me, but these are multiple people now have confirmed that he used that as a leverage of, look, I see what the donors are doing for them. I see what you're doing for them. I know Kevin Young is your guy. I know you didn't hire me 9 years ago, but respectfully, what can we do to get to a place where it's even, where it's fair, where it makes sense? Because Brian Santiago, for all intents and purposes, he is a BYU guy, but he's also a big basketball guy. And Pete, you're a basketball guy, right? If you're the new AD somewhere, your first thought is, all right, how's our basketball program? What's our basketball program look like? That's Santiago. So I don't fault him for that whatsoever. But at some level, when the football team is in the Big 12 championship, when they won 11 games last year, now 11 this year in the regular season, the basketball guy or not, that turns the lights on at the baseball stadium. But that's the revenue that you need to stay alive. And so Santiago, I think, realized with the help of these donors late that it was time to press the red button and go all in on Sitake. And I should also mention, it couldn't be done by just Santiago. This wasn't a situation where they can meet in that room and Sitake says, here's my number. Santiago says, yes, we can do that with the athletic budget right now. Here you go. He's a businessman through and through. He reminds me in ways of Brett Yormark, where at times you'll think, hey, is that guy a little prickly? But I don't know if I describe Santiago as prickly as much as just a businessman. That's what he is focused on. And so what it did take was leaders of the church. This is the flagship university of the church, leaders at the university's donors, these big, powerful alumni to come in the room with him and say, here's the cash. Does it work? Kalani says yes.
Great stuff, by the way. Another thing for you on this that you have touched on Locked On 12, Big 12, was there some feeling from Sitake like, hey, if I don't win the championship in my conference after almost running the table, I'm not going to get into the college football playoff. Like, do I have to take this show on the road to compete in the Big Ten, right? Where I can punch my ticket if I have a season like this. Was there any thought process like that? Like, maybe I need to go somewhere else to reach the summit.
That's the one thing I haven't heard from any sourcing. That's the one thing they have not said that he got to the table and looked at Santiago or the donors and said, look, love the money, but if we can be 11-1 in a Power 4 conference and still not go to the playoff, I want to go win a championship. Because 11-1 Penn State is number 3 in the country right now. And he knows that, and I know that. And so that is not Sitake directly saying that to the university or saying that to sources, but I know this. He's a human being. I've shook the guy's hand. Like, he's sentient. In the back of your brain, when you're the head coach of an 11-1 team and you're being held out of the college football playoff, if you're Mike Norvell at Florida State, you know you're being cheated at some level, and you understand that where the grass could be greener, you would not be cheated. It's at the very least a thought that I would have as a human being of, yeah, my ultimate motive here is to get Jay Hill paid. My ultimate motive is to make sure that Bear Bachmeier stays in-house next season. At the same time, I do understand if I went to Penn State and went 11-1, that's a national championship team. I can build that. I can grow that there at a much more successful rate with that win percentage if our win percentage stays the same. So while that was never a conversation that I was told happened at the table, I do think it's got to be in the back of any human being's mind because at a very gross level, the College Football Playoff Committee has slighted the Big 12, has slighted BYU. And if you're telling me I have to go unblemished, I have to go perfect every year to make the college football playoff, I don't know if I want to sign up for that, especially if the money doesn't make sense.
What about the assistants, Drake? You mentioned Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick. Getting them paid is obviously so important because I'm surprised that we haven't heard their names kicked around with other jobs. I mean, is there potential for that this offseason? Or I guess that's something that probably would have already bubbled up. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
Yeah, this should be a coaching search. I thought it would be a coaching search that brings Jay Hill to the forefront. There were conflicting reports of Jay Hill's going to Happy Valley with him, or Aaron Roderick's getting on the plane, or, hey, Jay Hill's the next head coach. And there is, I think, I won't liken it entirely to Jerry Kill, but stay with me here a bit. Jerry Kill could have been one of the great coaches. I believe that in college football. He could have been, but his health has gotten in the way every single step. He's a mastermind and just has never gotten a fair shake with his health.
I mean, this goes back to 2010 at Minnesota. I mean, he
Absolutely.
was right there at the jumping off point, and he just couldn't. His health was always, like you said, an issue.
And in talking to Coach Gary Patterson, he has been one of the main catalysts with Clark Lee on that staff at Vanderbilt to look around the room and say he's the wise sage that helps them win these games in the SEC. That's what you get with Jay Hill. And I don't think his health is doing him any favors right now. You remember last year, he had a heart attack right before the season started and was still coaching games within a week. There are pieces of this with Jay Hill that would hold him back as a head coach from a health standpoint. And look, maybe you take a shot at it. He goes 3 good years, 5 good years, and nothing happens. And that's awesome. I do think it's in the back of the mind of a lot of people when it comes to a coaching search and making a hire, as it would be for a Jerry Kill. So that's what may be holding back Jay Hill. If I'm a big-time program, I'd take a shot on him before I do some of these names we've heard in the SEC. I take a shot on him to be my head coach. If I'm BYU, I think they would have been more than confident if it just didn't make sense and Kalani had to go to bring Jay Hill into that chair. Aaron Roderick feels kind of like this Jeff Grimes character of maybe once every 2 or 3 years, you float him out for a Utah State, or you float him out for a UTEP, you float him out for South Alabama. But he's your perennial offensive coordinator. He's the guy that will man that chair, and that seems like it's what he wants to do. His path may be through a smaller, like a Weber State or a smaller Utah school to get to the ranks of a Power 4 head coach. And then outside of that, I think Kelly Papinga could be a guy who in the future is a head coach. Fezzi Sitake could be a guy. TJ Woods could be a guy who are future head coaches. I don't see them in that role right now. I think they are happy at BYU, especially as the money gets better.
Couple more for you, and I'll let you go. You were all over this and still are on this situation that at this point, until we see something, but your reporting is lights out, remains fluid, but I would look forward to reading about that agreement coming up here in a little bit. What's the craziest thing you've heard throughout the course of the last 48 hours with all of this Kalani Sitake to Penn State ? Talk.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing that I've heard is that there was a handshake deal, that they were fully ready to do this, and verbally Kalani had confirmed that my intent is to go to Penn State. And I think that was before BYU had caught full wind of it and decided to take all the donors and go out in full force and say, okay, you have won enough games here at BYU. You are the second coming of Lavelle Edwards. Here's the blank check. What does it look like for you? Before that was given, I do think that Kalani was at a point saying, hey, the grass might just be greener. This is the time, if there ever is a time, a la Scott Drew and Kentucky conversation. That's the weirdest part. I also this is a good lesson for anyone who is in sports betting, anyone who is in stock brokerage, anybody who follows the market, any of that. Kalshi, this is a real thing. It is. So I sat down with Gary Patterson probably 2 months ago when Oklahoma State fired Mike Gundy. And I said, Coach, FanDuel's got you as the number 10 candidate to be the next head coach at Oklahoma State. You going to take it? And he couldn't stop giggling. He's never talked to Oklahoma State about the job. He doesn't. He loves Mike Gundy. He wouldn't do this to Gundy. There's no possibility of Gary Patterson being the head coach at Oklahoma State. So I had some insider trading there. Didn't put any money on it, and that's where the Vegas can throw things against the wall until things really begin to stick. This Kalani deal. If I have insider information, I am going and I am buying stock. I am buying shares of Kalani Sitake to Penn State. The more you see something on Kalani rise and rise and rise, you see it in elections as well. They really do everything. The more you see it rise, the more you have to believe this isn't just some bum from middle of nowhere, Alabama, putting $100 on, maybe this will happen in college baseball. No, these are calculated people who have inside interest in the situations, who are buying shares of something to happen and controlling how that market looks in real time, watching how they're controlling the shares and how the market looks. That's dangerous. And anytime you see that smoke, it's going to point to fire, just like it did here. We all like, oh, he's number one for Kalani. Yeah. When I see that, I see, oh, he's number one for people who are playing effective sports stock. We need to put some focus into this. And obviously it was correct.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. All right, when you look at BYU and their game against Texas Tech coming up on Saturday, how does this, if at all, affect what will play out on the field in Arlington?
I think the best way to do this is when practice happens today. They should have their last really strong practice, go through a couple walkthroughs specifically tomorrow before they travel. I think Kalani's the last one to walk into the room. I think you bring everybody into the film room. You do hold that quasi-team meeting at 4 p.m. at 5 p.m. and you let Jay Hill walk in, Aaron Roderick head down, and then here comes Kalani with he's got the flowers all over him. He comes in there pumping his chest and fist pumping because this is going to be a win. I was told that players were involved in him staying. They were the ones reaching out and trying to campaign. He needs to create a scene in that room. And he's not that kind of guy, but you see him dance before the games. Every now and then he'll give you a shade of the true fire that he has as a football coach. He needs to walk in that room and immediately set the tone. I don't even need to talk about this. I just got you paid. I got us paid. I got we paid. We're going to win the Big 12 championship. I'm the head coach at BYU. If that's the message that's sent today, if that's the message in that room, I mean, now we're really talking a ball game. Like Joey McGuire is maybe the best motivator in the Big 12, but it's tough to recreate this moment in the aggregate. This could be a great momentum shift for BYU. I'm very excited for the game on Saturday. With him leaving, it would have been a bloodbath, absolute bloodbath, because this isn't used car salesman Lane Kiffin left. I want to win the championship. In spite of him, this is my leader, my religious leader, my father figure is gone. I'm dejected. With him staying when you thought for 6 hours he was leaving. I think BYU can find an edge in that.
What is I got to follow up on this one thing. What were you hearing about players reaching out to him? Like how passionate were they? What was some of the messaging?
Yeah, it happened fast. That was the number one thing that was given to me, was that when the players caught wind of this, it was through social media. And then when you see, so again, you got to put yourself in the human form for LJ Martin, for Chase Roberts, for Parker Kingston, that you're hearing murmurs on social media that your coach is leaving. And then you get that message, team meeting, this hall, this time. That's when it goes into campaign mode. And so you understand now there's a time set on it. Now it's, just spitballing. It's 2 p.m. meetings at 5. I've got 3 hours.
It's like an action movie, dude.
Oh yeah. To do everything in my power. Like do I go to his house? Do I go to his kid's daycare? Do I where do I go to find him? So it happened quickly, and that's where the team leader stepped up and campaigned hard, saying, hey, we want to do whatever we can to win a championship with you. Original timeline was supposed to be Sitake announcing this after the Big 12 championship game, really win or lose. That seems to be the theme of this offseason is whenever you accept the job, you're out at your current place, no matter where that team sits in the college football playoff. And so the fact that he's, by all intents and purposes, at this point in time, not leaving is a great win for BYU. And I think those players did have a pretty big hand in that.
I'm very proud that I bought stock in Drake Toll ruling the sports media landscape years ago. And it's paying off. It's paying major dividends, dude. What's coming up on Locked On Big 12 this week?
What's not? At this point, I've ruled out nothing. Dave Aranda could be the Queen of England in 48 hours, and it'd be less shocking than the crumble cookies guy saving Kalani Sitake at BYU. So it's a lot of Big 12 championship preview stuff. Texas Tech and BYU is going to be an electric game. I think the ball bounces a couple different ways. Pete, here's a stat for you. Ready for this? Texas Tech,
please.
149 rushing yards. 149 rushing yards in that game when the first time these two teams squared off. That's on 43 carries. 76 of those yards came on 2 carries. That means 41 rushing yards, 41 carries on half those rushing yards. Like a couple explosive plays off the board here. We got a ball game. No muff punt, no fumble.
That's what I always said. That was so crazy, that muff punt early on. That will not happen again. You can't give the ball away 3 times to a team like Texas Tech and expect to even be in the game late. So I think if they take care of the football and, like you said, eliminate the explosives, we got a ball game. I can't wait, dude.
Yeah, 5 field goals too. Tech struggled to score in the red zone. Like, BYU's defense is good, Pete. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than even Vegas is predicting.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, and many more things and more high-profile stuff to come. We'll wait on that. Drake, you're the best, dude.
Always
appreciate
fun.
You, man.
Always fun, Pete. We'll catch you later.
All right, buddy. There he is, Drake Toll, man, taking us down the stretch here on a very, very busy Tuesday. Let's go to Scotty Swingler now.